Hi and welcome to FreeDU Hub. Today we are going to learn command shell exploitation. Now this is a backdoor lab where we'll understand advanced persistent threats and how the attacker gains access to the corporate networks and maintain control for data exfiltration. Now gaining a command shell on a remote system is a common method used by the attackers for persistent access and data theft. This lab demonstrates the use of Netcat and how versatile networking tool is for establishing an unauthorized access. Now we have two systems over here, as you can see on our screen. Both instances of Kali machine are loaded through a VMware workstation, and both computers would have separate IP addresses. Now we'll try to focus on using one computer as the attacker and the other computer would be a target. So on my left hand side I have Eve, that's the attacker, and on right hand side I have Bob, which would be the victim today. So we'll set up the computers, and for that, first of all, I'll open the terminal window on both computers so that I can log in as a privileged user on this one. Once that's done, I'll run sudo su on Eve's computer, and I'm going to type in the password for both of them so that we are logged in as a super user on both of those computers. Now, once that's done, the next step would be I'll have to change the host name of the computers. Now we want to identify that the machine on left is Eve and on the right it's Bob. So in order to do that, I'll type in nano and then I'll go to etc folder and I'll type in hostname. Now as you can see, it's appearing by default as Kali. I'm going to change it to Eve, and then I'll save it by pressing Ctrl X, and you'll have to save the file, and once it's saved you can close it. I'm going to do the same operation on Bob's computer as well. Now once that's done, I'm going to change the host file, and I'll type in nano and I'll type in etc and hosts, and as you can see here also we need to change from Kali to Eve, and then save the file as we did earlier, Ctrl X, and save it, and the same procedure would be there on Bob's computer, and then we'll reboot both computers. Now as you can see, once both computers are restarted, you can see the prompt Eve and Bob, so we can identify that Eve is the attacker and Bob is the victim. Now next step is that I'll log in as a super user, and I'll log in as a super user on both computers. So since in this exercise we are saying that if any ports are open on a victim's computer, how can we gain access to that? So first of all, we'll try to identify the IP addresses of both machines. So we found out for Eve's computer, and we are checking it for Bob also. So for Eve's computer we have 192.168.32.130, whereas on Bob's computer we have IP as 192.168.32.132. So now we have the IP addresses of both computers. Now, as I told you earlier, that if there are any ports open on the computers which are not required, we can be a victim of that, and we are using Netcat. So we are just supposing that a port is open on Bob's computer, which is 8001, and as you can see, I'm using a Netcat to open a port on Bob's computer, which is 8001, and now you can see that it's listening on that port. Now once that's done, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use the IP address of Bob's computer from Eve's computer, because Eve is going to attack Bob's computer. So I'll type netcat IP address, and then I'll try to communicate with open port of Bob's computer, which is 8001. And once that's done, I'll just check 8001, press enter, and as you can see on Bob's computer there's a notification that someone, unknown user from an IP address 130, is communicating on your computer. Now that's the first step. Second thing is that I would try to send a message from Eve's computer to Bob's computer, and as you can see, I wrote a message from the attacker to the target. Let me rub it off, and yep, that's fine. Now, and as you can see now, I sent a message so Bob can see that someone is communicating on my computer. So we tried to penetrate on a computer through an open port, which was 8001. So that's what happens if you have open ports, and that's how they can be exploited. Now, the next step would be we'll try to gain access on the command, or we call it a command access. So for that, I'll try to start the Netcat again on the Bob's computer, which is our target, and we'll try to again listen to port 8001, but this time we are going to open a command execution which is bin/bash. So with the help of that, we'll be able to perform or run certain operations on Bob's computer, and remotely we'll see what's happening. So as I'm connected using the Eve's computer, it again notified as it notified it earlier. But this time, if I would like to find the host name of our target computer, I can even perform those operations since I'm using bin bash, which is an elevated mode. So I'll type host name, and it showed me the name of our remote computer, which is Bob. So we gained the information about our target computer. Now if I'll try to find the IP address of my remote computer, I'll type ifconfig, and it would even show me the IP address of my remote computer, which I am actually trying to penetrate in. Now, likewise, you can run different commands, and you can even find more details about your target computer. Now, let's check how can we create a file on Bob's computer, since we are running bin bash and we have the authority to run certain operations. So I'll use touch for that, and let's remove it, and I'll create a file called fake evidence here.txt, and I'll press enter. Once that's done, so a file is created on Bob's computer, but of course Bob is not aware of that. And then I'll try to add some text to that. So once the file is created, but keep in mind that I'm doing it remotely, so I'll just enter the text as password is 1337 on the same fake text file which is existing on Bob's computer. Now if Bob would find any file similar to that on its computer, and if Bob would open it, he'll be able to see it. As you can see, I opened another terminal window, and I'm using a command called cat, and then I'll try to open the file which is found on desktop of Bob. So I'll type cat, and then I'll type in the name of the file, and if I'll press enter, I'll be able to see the password or the text which was written in that text file. So that's how the open ports are exploited. So through these commands, we can observe how an attacker can exploit an open port to gain unauthorized access to a system and execute commands. This lab emphasized on the importance of securing network services and monitoring for suspicious activities.